Hello and welcome along to a video that I'm going to talk to you about what I've watched in the month of June. Now this video was inspired by a channel called Movie Worm. I'll try and put a link down below. If I don't put a link down to his channel, I will put a link down to his movie haul from probably last month, and you can subscribe from there. I do advise you to subscribe because he does put some very interesting stuff on his channel which I really enjoy watching. So these is in the order of what I've watched these films in this month. The first film is kind of like a B movie, and it's also the B movie that's on this disc, 2000 Maniacs being probably the best known of the two. And the one I watched was because I went to watch the ones I've not watched of Herschel Gordon Lewis, and you could say the extra features always have have another movie on it. Now the extra movie on here was the one I hadn't seen, called Moonshine Mountain, and it's sort of like a sort of musical watered down version of 2000 Maniacs, and it's quite enjoyable. And if you do know Herschel Gordon Lewis's films, you know what you're getting into. And this one here, I would say it is like the print's not very good on the extra films that are on these double discs, double feature movies. So you'll not get a pristine print, but you will get a movie that's quite rare, and probably it's the best it's going to look in it. But these extra sort of lesser known Herschel Gordon Lewis films are always worth a watch, and this one was quite enjoyable. Moonshine Mountain. The next one is a one that you've heard me talk about a lot in this channel, and I can't say how much I've been impressed by this release, and I can't wait to watch it again. And it is the Mighty Zombie, or Zombie Flesh Eaters in the UK. This is released by Blue Underground, and it is the brand new 4K master of this classic movie, probably one of the best ever zombie horror films at all, and it's highly recommended. And if you can get it, you will not need to buy another one of any description. Now, following on the back of that, I watched this one, which I've also reviewed on my channel, which is another Blue Underground 4K. It's the second in their series of releasing 4K films. There's more to come out later on the year. And this is the cult classic Maniac. And it's pretty grubby. It's a pretty dark film, but it's probably even though it's a 16mm print, it is probably the best this is ever going to look as well. So if you pick those two up, Zombie and Maniac, you're set for life for these two films. Amazing quality seen throughout these two releases, and I look forward to more releases from Blue Underground. And the slip covers as well, if you can see it, which I don't know if you can, there's a large amount of embossing on the slip covers. Very good. I don't know if you can just make that out there. Excellent. Now the next one, it was a big month for 4Ks in my house, and my wife wouldn't watch any of those films, by the way. But we settled down to watch this massive release, which is Jaws, which is a film that me, my wife, and probably a lot of people have been wanting to see. Again, I've done a review for this. I'll put it in the link down below, and it is amazing. As you can imagine, it's the best Jaws will ever look. In fact, these films I'm getting seem to be the best that they're ever going to look, so I'm quite happy to own this, the definitive version for me. I don't think I need to look anywhere else for a copy of Jaws. But I do think that, excuse me, that this version is just unbelievable, and I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to get their hands on Jaws and finish off their quest for the Ultimate Edition. Yeah, 4K all the way. Now the next one is another one of the Herschel Gordon Lewis. I was getting a bit of a kick in this month. It's not the main film, Colour Me Blood Red, which is great. The one I wanted to watch was the sort of extra one in here, which is 1967's Something Weird, and it is something weird, if I can describe it as that. It's a story about a fella who gets electrocuted, and he does have the ability to see, kind of like he can see in the future, he can read people's minds, and it's about how that happens. And because he's scarred beyond recognition with getting electric shock to the face, he somehow gets involved with a witch who for a sort of, I think the witch wants him to be her partner, So she says, I will make your face look okay, and you, as long as you become my partner. So he agrees to that, but he sold his soul to the devil, and she will not let him escape from her clutches, because he becomes quite a celebrity on the front of reading people's minds and solving crimes and everything like that. It's something weird does it justice, and it is a really good film as well. I found myself quite engrossed by it, even though it's a really low budget, and the print on it isn't great. But like I say, with these B movies on the B movie disc, they are quite grubby, but they're probably the best they're ever going to look, and well worth a watch. And following on from that, I did watch She-Devils on Wheels, because I hadn't seen this one, and I also hadn't seen the one after it, which is Just for the Hell of It. So I watched them sort of like on a double bill, and really amazing. And also the other film, Just for the Hell of It, Herschel Gordon Lewis says on the film, I made a film just for the hell of it. I just wanted to make a film, and it is just bizarre, and it's got some really all of Herschel Gordon Lewis trademarks are in there. Really bad dialogue, really bad acting, and the She-Devils on Wheels is a really good film as well, and it's got a lovely print on that one as well. Of course, just for the hell of it hasn't got that much a good print on it, because it's like the B movie on the disc. But it's good to see all these Herschel Gordon Lewis films coming out, and as well the ones that you never ever see. Everyone knows about Colour Me Blood Red and Blood Feast and that, but they don't know about these deep cuts, shall I call them. Speaking of which, on the flip side of A Wizard of Gore was a film called How to Make a Doll. Now this one is another really bizarre film, where the story is this fella who's he's a teacher, but he's a massive geek, and he gets involved with somebody who has a supercomputer, which you've got to see to believe this supercomputer looks like it cost 15 pence to make, and they manufacture a way of building a sort of like a doll, like a human, but it's like I can't say it's a anything but it's not a what I'm trying to say. It's not a robot or anything like that. It's just something that can magic up from behind a screen, a shower screen, and this person comes out, and it's about him having getting this person on who's, she's not everything that she thinks she is and stuff like that, but it's a bit nutty, but it's also highly entertaining as well, with some great lines in it, and a sort of movie that Herschel Gordon Lewis can just rattle off, and you get a lot of enjoyment out of it, where if you watch this film by another filmmaker, you probably would think it was utter trash. But there's something really lovable about Herschel Gordon Lewis. And also, when he's getting interviewed on these discs, he says that he does fully acknowledge the fact that a lot of these movies are just rubbish, and I quite like the fact that he just self-deprecation, and he just puts them down. Well, he doesn't put them down, but he doesn't give them, he just says this is just a bit of rubbish, a bit of tat. But for that reason, I can always get something out of his films, and I do find them very enjoyable, even though on the Blu-ray front, you could say they're really bad quality. But I do appreciate that Arrow's released all of his films, or most of his films anyway, especially the ones that you can't really see widely. Now, moving away from the sort of cult stuff, me and my wife sat down to watch, because I've been watching a few of these Fast and Furious after watching Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw, and we watched a few of them like free on Sky just to see if we liked them. We started off, I think, from Fast and Furious 4 or 5, and the one that we couldn't get was Fast and Furious 7. So I got this on 4K thinking, well, I did enjoy the other ones, and I did really enjoy this film. It is the one that was the last to feature Paul Walker, and without doing a sort of spoiler alert, there's quite a moving sort of part of this film that sort of deals with Paul Walker and his kind of absence from the films in the future, because obviously with him dying in a horrific car accident, and it's quite it gets you, you know what I mean, and it's just a testament to how much they probably thought of Paul Walker in this movie. But it's a good movie, and we did enjoy it, me and my wife. Also, me and my wife decided to watch a few films this month, and I pulled one out of the 4K vaults that I bought cheap, because on the description of it, the review of it, it said that it had a really, really good 4K print. So I thought, well, I'll go for it, and if I like it, great. If I don't, I'll just sell it. And it's the sort of reboot of Tomb Raider. Now, I've got to admit, for most of the first quarter of the film, I wasn't really impressed with the movie itself. I thought the movie was a bit poor. Although I do like the girl who stars in it, although I can't remember her name at all, Alicia Vikander. And because she was in Ex Machina. Or is it Machina? Who knows? I think it's Machina. And I've got to admit, by the end of the film, I did enjoy the film. I've got to say, we both enjoyed the film and would like. There is a part 2 meant to be coming out, and I think they were filming it, but it got stopped because of COVID. And I think they're probably going to come back to that. I did enjoy it. I would like to go and see another one of it if they carry on with the same vein that they've got. But I've got to admit, the picture quality that everyone was talking about to say that it was really good. This is one of the best 4Ks I've ever seen, especially when they get into the sort of jungle aspect of the second half of the film and the tombs and the rain and all that type of malarkey. It's unbelievable, the HDR in it. I've got to admit, it's one of the best looking 4Ks I've seen, and it's highly, highly recommended for eye candy. And if you can forgive the first quarter of the film for being a little bit meh, the rest of it is well worth watching. And I do find that sometimes if you get a disc that's really, really good quality, you can forgive it its shortcomings because you're kind of engrossed in the picture quality, and then you can maybe get drawn into the film. But if I didn't get drawn into film, I would have just sold the film immediately. But I will be keeping this one because it's worth another watch, and also it's got a really, really nice picture quality. Very highly recommended on that front. Now, next was another 4K that I bought a while ago, last year. And it was on my big, huge list of to watches. And I decided it's one of these films that I think you're best off watching at night because it's quite a dark film. It's the Studio Canal's version of Escape from New York, their release. And I've got this with a few other ones of theirs, and I've got to admit they're all good, the ones that they've done, especially the Carpenter ones. And for me, this film looked, I did enjoy it, probably not more than that. I've seen this film countless times. This is the best I've ever seen it. And I would say the picture quality is really good, and there's some really good scenes in it, but I thought it could have been a little bit sharper. It is amazing that the sound quality on this, which I think is probably 5.1 surround, was really good. I found the sound was a massive bump up. I really was impressed with the sound on it, probably more than I was with the picture quality, but the picture quality was good. But I did find that I thought it could be just that touch better. But it is highly, it's a classic, and it's highly recommended. I'm not too sure about Escape from LA. I still don't think I can get round to watching that again. I found it very disappointing, especially after how good that film is. The next film is another 4K. It's been a really big 4K month for me and my wife. Although I watched this by myself because she's probably seen it, but she wouldn't like to watch it again. I watched this film, and I have watched this film countless times when I was younger. Probably back to back. I used to watch them over and over and over again. Know the film off by heart, but then left it for many years because sometimes you get to the point where you've seen a film that many times that you know it off by heart, and you kind of just push it to one side for a bit. So I came back to this, and I've got to say the 4K on it, the picture quality, especially in bright scenes, especially outdoor scenes, and you've got close-ups of people's faces and the sweat and the pores and all that. It looks amazing, looks excellent. Some of the darker scenes, the black levels aren't that great. They seem to go a little bit, you get a lot of grain in the black scenes. It doesn't really bother us at all. But if I had to notice any sort of like, I'm going to say falls in the picture, it was at that point, but it didn't matter at all because most of the picture just looked pristine. Plus, it's an amazing film as well. I will be watching this quite soon actually because it is a classic, and I think it does deserve the 4K. It's a big jump up from the Blu-ray for me anyway. The next one was me and my wife went back to the Fast and Furious chain, and we got Fast and Furious 8, and that brings us up to speed with the whole Fast and Furious till there's another one come out. We probably will see the pictures now because we're quite into this series, even though we don't get this into the series probably until halfway through it, which we're not too bothered about. I think I will probably go back to watch the first half of it, and maybe even if the 4K box set comes down quite cheap, I will probably buy the whole lot, even though I've heard bad reports about Fast and Furious 3. The quality is meant to be pretty poor in it, but that's irrelevant if I probably wouldn't watch it that much. But I've got to say that the 4K picture quality on this movie is absolutely stunning. This is one of the best ones I've ever seen. Now, sometimes you may think yourself, right, Jaws is a stone cold classic, probably one of the best films ever made, and I don't think you would say the same about Fast and Furious. But if a film for me is got a print that you can sort of be a bit aghast at, it will sort of raise that film. If I just saw it maybe on a sort of just a bad TV sort of broadcast, and yeah, it's all right, it's not too bad. But because of how clear and how colourful this picture was, it kind of elevated it up in its ranks for me. Not obviously to Jaws level, but it's elevated to a higher level than it probably would have been if it was just seen on a bog standard release. If that makes any sense to you, maybe you feel the same, that if you see a film that's pristine, you might think that it kind of makes it more watchable or more rewatchable, actually. But anyway, this is really, really, really good. Now, because I'm starting to watch a few more of my 4K titles, and I have made a video way back when, I'm saying way back when, it's probably a month ago, when I first started making these film videos, the top 10 that I had then, by the end of the year, would probably change quite a bit. So when it changes enough, I will be doing an update on that video. And for me, if you want to see, maybe you're in the same boat as I was when I first started out my 4K journey, which was about June last year, I thought myself, I want to get some, I don't want to buy something that's like basically the same as the Blu-ray or less than the Blu-ray, like Terminator 2. But you might look at those top 10s and you might see films like, say for instance, Tomb Raider, that was pretty, it wasn't high on me to watch list, but after watching it, and especially in the 4K version, I did think of it a bit more in a better light. So maybe that might be a way that you could decide which 4Ks you would like to pick, you know, because sometimes you don't want to go hell for leather, buy tons, and half of them you think, well, what was the point in getting that? But this one here, picture quality, I can highly recommend it. And it's a decent film as well. We quite enjoyed it. Another 4K that my wife watched, and my wife watched, was Deepwater Horizon. Now this one I got because they said that the picture quality, I had no really knowledge of the film, I didn't know anything about it. It's not really my type of film, but they reckon the picture quality is stunning. So I got it. And yes, the picture quality is stunning. I would say that the movie is really good, but it does seem to go along the lines that everybody knows all the technical terms about an oil rig. And for me, it was jargon heavy. Maybe they did that to make it a bit more sort of semi-documentary. And I did feel that the dialogue and the storyline was really, well, there wasn't really one, but it was more concentrating on the whole, what happened to this then true story. Deepwater Horizon blew up, and it was all about that scenario. So it's worth a watch. I will keep it, but I wouldn't say it was one that, it is amazing 4K, but I wouldn't say it's one of the best films I've ever seen. But maybe if it wasn't on 4K, I don't know if I would keep it. So that's another one that maybe the eye candy one is across. The next film is just a Blu-ray, but this is one that I showed in my what's on my like to holding shelves about that, and a lot of people talked about this film and said to me that I should watch it and needed to watch it. So I did watch it, and I must admit, until I sort of got the story a bit more towards the second half of the film, I was a little bit puzzled by it and a bit sort of like, well, do I really need to watch this again? But after the film, I did really enjoy it, and I do want to upgrade to 4K, although they reckon a 4K isn't a real big upgrade in it. If I can say it cheap, I will get it. But I did really enjoy this, and I do get why people like it. And my perception of it, without any spoilers, would be a certain way, and I wonder if that is... I'll keep meaning to go and look online to see if anybody else has had the same thoughts as I have on this film. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but nevertheless, it is a good film, and I did really enjoy it, and I'm glad I watched it, because I did put it off just for the fact that it didn't make much linear sense, but I did get it, if you know what I mean. Not that every film you have to get. Are you watching Eraserhead? Okay, the next one was just another one off the holding shelf, It's just a cheap bit of rubbish, and it was bought for £1 from One Below, and it is a film called Terrestrial. Now I'm calling this a cheap bit of rubbish because basically that's all it was. When I picked it up, I just said, oh, it's £1. I've never seen it. It's a Blu-ray, it's a horror movie or whatever. I'll get it. It might be good for a laugh. Had no hopes for it whatsoever. Put it on, and I tell you what, it's one of the best films I've seen recently. It's highly, highly recommended. I've done, although I haven't published it yet, I've done a review video of this title. So for me, I can't recommend this highly enough. If you can find this for £1 or thereabouts, this one comes in a very thin case. Snap it up, because I tell you what, you will be really impressed by this film as I was. It's not like what I was expecting it, and it's got a lot going for it. I don't want to say too much about it because a lot of it's in my review about it, but it's highly recommended, and the picture quality on here is stunning because it was shot originally in 5K. So you know that it does actually, on my 4K player, looks as if it could be Blu-ray 4K quality, and also the dark levels in it are stunning. Like when you're looking into trees, you can see everything in these trees. So it really was quite, for £1, it was amazing. Highly recommended that. The next one was another film that was recommended to me by people who had seen my Holden Shelf videos, and also it was released, it was reviewed a little bit by Volumn, and also for me it was one of them ones that it did have a good pedigree, but I didn't know about it until somebody said just give it a shot and you'll be impressed by it. Now this is the Blu-ray. I got this for £2 in Poundland, and it's absolutely brilliant, I've got to admit, and I will be getting the 4K. Probably cheaper rather than full price, but what a really good film. Yes, it has got shades of Alien, and it has got shades of not going to say 2001 so much, but it's got that sort of whole space vibe. Gravity, it does remind me of Gravity quite a bit, but it's a really good film, and me and my wife enjoyed it, even though she doesn't really like horror films as such. I don't class it as a horror film, but there's a lot to get out of this film, and I'm glad that Movie Worm recommended it to me because it is a really good watch. And usually when people, I think he's got the same taste as me, and when people like that who have the same taste, recommend a film, I do usually take that on board and think, well, yep, I've got a good feeling I like that, and I did like that. So that's another highly recommended. In fact, most of these films are good this month. I don't not recommend any, because some of them times I watch them I think that was just rubbish, and I would tell you if it was rubbish as well. Now this one here was slipcase. Well, you know all about that. If you've seen the other videos, you know how much I'm complaining about not getting a slipcase, even though I bought it brand new, and it is pretty much a brand new film. I got this because another thing they told about the picture quality was meant to be stunning, which it was. I was quite intrigued about the film. I'm not a big fan of war films, but I was a fan of the fact it was shot, it's meant to be a good looking film, and it's also shot in one take, or they make it look like it was shot in one take. But putting that aside and watching the film just as a film, it's a really good film and well worth a watch. The picture quality is stunning, although the colours are quite muted. I think the palette that they've chosen is quite like a beige palette, but that's not taken away from the film. It's pin sharp. It's a highly watchable film. The second half of the film is mainly at night. I can see that's where your HD quality comes into it, the HDR, because the black levels are inky black, and I think that's why your picture quality is sort of said to be stunning. So for me, highly recommended again, and my quest for the slipcover continues. So that leads me on. That's all my watches for this month, and this leads me into the film that I'm going to say was the best one that I watched this month. Okay, and this is funny because ever since I got this film, although I've seen this film many times, I got this film in about April. It came out, and I have watched it every month since April. Now in July, and I feel like I can still watch another one in July, and I haven't got sick of it at all. Like I say, I've watched it loads and loads of times. It did used to be my favourite film in the past, and I do want to make a separate video about it, which I will be doing in the future, but I want to do a really long version about my whole journey through this relationship with this movie. But my pick of this month is The Elephant Man on 4K. For me, this is the perfect version of the film. It's remastered, it's just perfection. Studio Canal, as they normally do on their films, has done a stellar restoration on this. It's a proper, box, like from grassroots restoration, original negatives, director approved, everything. The sound quality is stunning, even though it's not as good as you would think. It's not like an Atmos track. I think it's about 5.1, or maybe not even 5.1, which is 2 point. So it's 2 stereo DTS, 2.0 stereo DTS, which is a bit of a step down from the Blu-ray, but the previous Blu-ray. But I have checked it out with the quality, and for me, I don't think that this suffers for that. Maybe it was meant to see that. Maybe it's been remixed in a slight way. But for me, the sound quality is just as good as the other one, if not better. So I don't know how downgrading the sound quality has made it look a bit better. I don't know about that. But anyway, the picture quality is stunning. The movie itself is a classic, and I never get sick of watching this film. Every time I watch it, I do see maybe a few things that I haven't seen before, a few little nuances which make the film that bit more enjoyable, or a few things that I've noticed about tiny little things that David Lynch puts into his films, with lights going down and up, and just as little touches that he puts onto a film which makes you think that you're watching a David Lynch film, even though it's no Eraserhead. You can see shades of Eraserhead in this movie at times, especially at the start, the beginning, and the end. It's as if he does a little nod to Eraserhead. Now, the dream sequence in the middle of the film, which is a sort of, this is maybe what the Elephant Man dreams about. Well, should say the Elephant Man, maybe Joseph Merrick dreams about when he's asleep. It tells you a little story, like a little thing behind, that you can have little thoughts that he's having, maybe. It kind of foreshadows a scene that happens a bit later on in the film. But for me, you can see that is, if you just saw the start, that dream sequence, and the ending, put them all together, and you would think you were watching a David Lynch short. So for me, the David Lynch stamp is on here. But beside that, the movie itself is stunning, and it's a film that I never get sick of watching. So that's, and I know a few people have picked this up, and they do think you should watch it if you haven't watched it, because there's so much to get out of it. So that's my pick for the month. Okay, so thanks very much for listening to this. I had a good time compiling these. I do every month. I always write down what I've watched, so you will see this. I might go back in time, and I might start doing some other ones from earlier on the year. I know that I'm thinking about doing a video for. Oh, there's one that I forgot. Sorry, I'll just get it up in here. And the last one that I watched from the end of last month was one with my wife, Death Race 4, Beyond Anarchy. And that was, I don't know if that was in a high definition, I'm not too sure. It was on Sky Movies, and it was, shall we say, interesting. It's a typical Death Race movie. I know what you're getting into when you get into them. The characters, the lead actors in it hadn't got a clue who they were. This is a bit more outrageous than the other two with, the other three. Obviously Jason Statham's in the first one, and the Luke Goss is in the next two, and this new person, I don't know who he is, he's in this one. And it's all right for what it is. It's all right. It's quite watchable. It's very gory. There's a lot of skin in it, but it is what it is, and we quite enjoyed it. But that's the end of that. So thanks very much for watching. I know it's been a bit of a long one here. I am thinking about doing my June last year haul, which was the biggest haul I've ever had in me sort of, well, not life, but when I've been recording them on my phone, what I've actually got in the month. That month was a huge month. So anyway, I'm waffling now. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for listening.